My name is Mikel Delagrange, and I am the head cheerleader of Team Amani. This team is definitely just for East Africans. There will never be any Europeans or any Mzungus or anyone else riding on this team. Yeah, look, so in my day job, I'm an international criminal lawyer, and I work primarily in East Africa. At the moment, I'm focused in Sudan, but I used to work for 10 years in Kenya. And so, but I'm also a cyclist as a passion, as a hobby, as cathartic exercise to deal with the demons of my day job. Um, and yeah, so I came to know the cycling community there, and then they explained the challenges that they were facing. And I was living in the Netherlands at the time, which is like a cycling powerhouse, and I knew the head of the Dutch Cycling Federation. So our ambitions were super small in the beginning. I was like, the last thing I ever wanted was to have like a project in Africa. Last thing, because I've seen nothing but bullshit in the development sector across the planet. And the last thing I wanted to do was ever have my own project. But my partner at the time, Sule Kangangi, he had a dream, and so I resolved myself to just sit in the back seat and help him get the resources he needed to do what he wanted to do. And that was break into the sport not only for himself but for all of his countrymen in the region. Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that Sule identified in the beginning was that there was just not as many racing opportunities for athletes outside of Europe. So we created our own race and invited the best in the world to come to Kenya. And so that's the Migration Gravel Race. And then in our first edition, we brought like the two Unbound winners and various others to come. And Kenneth and Jordan were giving them hell. The UCI is a fact. And they are the governing body of the sport. And they're very important, and they have an important role to play. But I think that they themselves are not necessarily aware of how that system that they have created sometimes limits, it stifles opportunities for riders who want to come out and get opportunities, because it becomes a kind of fiefdom, right? Like in any given country, the federation becomes like the gatekeeper, and they decide if you can have a license or not, and sometimes So, and I'm not talking about corruption or anything. I think this happens across every country, everywhere, but it has been a barrier to entry, and so that's why gravel was such an interesting opportunity for us, because it was ungoverned space. So we could just organize our own races, and we didn't have to ask anyone. We didn't need approval, and we didn't have to pay anyone, and we didn't have to do all these things when we were small and we couldn't afford to. And if we had to, we would have never even got off the ground. And so yeah, that's why one of the reasons why we got into gravel. Look, I think there's a lot of positives. I was with Skabu Gamai. We were at the UCI training center in Eigel, Switzerland, a couple of weeks ago. And they have a world of like opportunities that they can open up just by snapping their fingers, And if we have a nice relationship of trust with them, and we say, for example, we have these 3 kids that are potential world beaters, can we send them to you for further development? And they're like, absolutely. And then we'll send them back better. Great, wonderful. Like that is the relationship that we really want to foster. And I think also just in general, like whenever the UCI brand goes onto a race or goes onto a development project or anything, I think there is a sense within the cycling community, at least, that, and I mean the industry and everything, that this is a project that is worthy of further investment, so that's important. No, we just need to get that Amani Project in the Caribbean going, baby. Look, I think honestly, if we succeed in what we want to do, I think like the possibilities are endless for not just the countries in the global south, but like every fucking country outside of Europe. They've just built the walls around this sport and tried to keep it so regional. And if we can crack it, it's in everyone's interest, because then we can all come through. You know what I mean? So So I just hope that whoever's following your podcast, and just get behind the team. Support us, follow us on Instagram. Like come to the migration gravel race if you can. Support the partners who support us, because otherwise the dream doesn't happen. And then just watch what happens, because we're going to push through this thing. Without order of priority, I mean, we're talking about Rafa, Factor, Hawk, Wahoo. We're talking about SRAM, Physique, Buff, BBP, 226ers in nutrition, Schwalbe for the tires, Crank Brothers for the pedals. So honestly, I think we really have like the best partners in the game, and they're making serious investments to see this thing through, not just for 1 year, but like all the way through to fruition. And so I really think if you care about this thing and you have a choice to make in the product that you're buying, do that Patagonia thing and invest in these corporations who are investing in it, and making cycling more international.
My personal opinion on cycling in Africa in conjunction with world cycling. I think that Africa is big enough to actually create its own ecosystem within cycling. Well, saying that if each country invested in the cyclists and in its cycling infrastructure, they can create their own world league and be competitive. And then, when the world championships come around and all the big Olympics come around, they can go and be competitive. But that's just, because I see the athletes that are coming out of Africa, and I'm just imagining if all of the other countries, like the South Africas and the Kenyas and the Ugandas, come together, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and come to, and do their thing. They can create their own league and their own, stand on their own and make the world watch them. Just my opinion. Just thinking outside the box a little bit.
Sever your legs media. You know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thanks. We got lots of stuff coming up.